Can philosophy provide meaning to the modern person? Welcome to the world's largest philosophy collab, where we asked 100 philosophy channels to answer this very question. In each installment, 3 channels will share their responses. I hope you enjoy the ones to follow.
Hello, I'm James from TheLivingPhilosophy. I just want to thank Xavi for putting all this together, and here's why I think philosophy can provide meaning for us today. Back in 2011, Stephen Hawking declared that philosophy was dead. Scientists, he said, have become the bearers of the torch of discovery in our quest for knowledge. Hawking's statement is the archetypal declaration of a materialistic worldview that believes the fundamental questions of human life can be answered by a values-neutral science. Science has become our culture's divine oracle. The soothsayer scientist communicates with the gods of objectivity and fact, and what comes back is pure, inescapable truth. But the crises of meaning and sense-making will not find their answers at the end of a telescope or in the heart of an atom smasher. It is in the repressed domain of subjectivity where we find all the trenches of the meta-crisis. Not just the crises of meaning and sense-making, but the climate crisis, the energy crisis, and the culture wars. These are conflicts of visions and values, and until we realise that, the discourse between the red, blue, and green teams will continue to burn up their energies in heat. So where do we turn? Well, the quest may lead us through depth psychology, sociology, spirituality, anthropology, or cognitive science. Philosophy is the starting point when you have a question without any sense of an answer. As the sciences have been hived off from philosophy, what remains is the unquantifiable. What remains is the values sphere of subjectivity. The work of philosophy in this meaning sphere is vast, and in the past century and a half includes the study of language by philosophers like Russell, Wittgenstein, and Derrida, Rawls's attempt to come up with a theory of justice, Foucault's dissection of power, the structuralist's attempt to unearth the deep structure of human culture, Wilber's attempt to create a map of all knowledge, Heidegger's attempt to ask the question of being, and Nietzsche's attempt to revalue all values. None of these routes guarantee meaning at an individual or cultural level, but philosophy has never been about answers. It is a Jacobin wrestling with God. It is a struggle with a question mark. It is orienting ourselves individually and collectively towards the question of meaning. Philosophy doesn't hand us meaning like a priest from a pulpit, but it brings us to the entrance of a labyrinth, and from there we begin the quest into the dense and serpentine bowels of consciousness's underworld, the place where meaning dies and is reborn.
Let me tell you a parable the Buddha once told one of his monks. This monk had become vexed that for all his devotion, he was still no closer to understanding the ultimate mysteries of life. Is the cosmos eternal or not? Are the body and the soul 2 separate things or one and the same? And what happens to a liberated person after death? The monk couldn't get his mind off these questions. So, one day, he approached the Buddha in a fit of anger. He told his master he would either get straight answers or he would leave him. It was then that the Buddha told him the parable. Imagine a man struck by a poisoned arrow, the Buddha said. A doctor comes along, ready to pull the arrow out and give him an antidote, but the man stops him. Not so fast. First, I want to know who shot me. What town or village does he come from? I would also like to know what kind of timber his bow was made out of. Also, was it a crossbow or a longbow? Clearly, the Buddha said, that man would die and his questions would remain unanswered. The Buddha explained this is why he refrains from excessive philosophizing. Like the man in the parable, we are all shot with the poisoned arrows of suffering and ignorance. Philosophizing on the nature of the cosmos or the soul is unlikely to help us with that. So, the Buddha said, get your priorities straight. Heal yourself and build yourself up to live a good life. Use philosophy only as a tool to get you there, and not as a distraction. Or as Dostoevsky wrote, you shall love life more than the meaning of life. So, whenever we engage in philosophy, we should ask ourselves, does this contribute to the perfection of my life? Or am I just indulging my intellectual appetites? I hope this bit of insight serves you well on your own path of inner growth.
We are all tightly bound by the thread of fate. caught in its merciless net. Some desperately seek to escape by trying to find where the thread leads. Others turn backwards to determine from whence it has come. We are the great helpless, or as Parmenides said, undistinguishing and indistinguishable crowds. We are suspended between these two poles of past and future, trapped in the spider's web of confusion, disorientation, pathlessness, and despair. But those who search for a way out, grasping frantically either backwards or forwards along this thread, are still bound in these very knots. My name is Abbas the Alchemist, and my channel explores the ways in which one can untangle these knots and close the circle, thereby participating in wholeness. This unifying process manifests in different languages across cultures and ages. Jung calls it individuation, the alchemists call it the magnum opus, and the Neoplatonists call it theurgy. Regardless of its name, the movement is essentially the same. In order to prepare oneself for the opportunity of transmutation, the groundwork must be set. Wholeness, by definition, is all-encompassing. Nothing is excluded from it. Each path and tradition uses its own terminologies, its own metaphysical language, its own beliefs and presumptions, its dogmas and its doctrines. For far too long, we have set this world up in opposition to the transcendent and the divine. We have created yet another dichotomy, the filthy stuff of the here and now versus the beatific good of the heavens. But it is here, in the matter of the everyday, in the simplest and most banal of things, where every alchemist and theurgist understood lay the true seeds that grow to bridge the distance between the human and the divine. The world is a theophany, and to truly participate in it, we must relearn how to unveil it. And for that we focus on sacred philosophy, theurgy, alchemy, literature, art, poetry, and myth. And gradually, Deo concedente, you may come to perceive the invisible thread that links them all together, resulting in a true unloosening of the knot.
Thank you to each of our philosophy collaborators here for sharing their responses with us, and a special thank you to Eternalized for helping us put together this collaboration. And thank you, the viewer, for coming to learn together with us. Catch you next time.